We do start our show, though, with unfortunate news out of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark announced today that she will miss both the three-point contest and the WNBA All-Star Game this upcoming week.
What happens when the brightest star on the court suddenly collapses in tears? Why is Caitlin Clark the unstoppable force of the WNBA on the brink of walking away? Caitlin Clark enters each game as though she built the arena herself, her confidence radiating brighter than the scoreboard lights. Tonight, however, the crowd's roar turns nervous as she clutches her groin, pain etched on her usually composed face. Fans expect heroics, not heartbreak, yet here she is, tears welling after a signature dish turned tragic. The silence that follows her limp off the court echoes louder than any chant. This isn't merely a broken play. It feels like a broken promise.
Again in Indiana, after re-aggravating a groin injury in that final minute of Tuesday's win over the Connecticut Sun, Clark had missed 4 games and the Commissioner's Cup final.
From the moment she arrived in the pros, Clark carried the weight of expectations heavier than any basketball. Iowa's prodigy adapted easily to its storied halls, her numbers exploding like fireworks on the 4th of July. When the Fever drafted her, tickets sold out before the ink dried on her rookie contract. Instead of caution, the organization treated her body like its own cash cow, milking every ounce of excitement. Now the cost of that greed shows plain. In preseason, she tweaked her quad, a subtle warning sign dismissed as growing pains. The coaching staff shrugged off medical advice, eager to showcase their golden girl in front of journalists. The consequence was predictable, a re-injury in the first quarter of the season opener that sidelined her for 10 days. Still, the whispers warned nothing would change. True enough, she returned under heavy schedule pressure and re-aggravated the problem. It became a cycle. Heal, play, injure, repeat.
With that groin injury earlier this month, and now will be out for this weekend's festivities, which really stinks for fans, but you know that if there was any way that she could be out there, she would be.
Tonight's incident wasn't about a foul or a collision. It was a quiet moment where her own body betrayed her, causing a soft groan instead of a dramatic flop. That tiny misstep carried more weight than any opponent's elbow could muster. It exposed the relentless pace imposed on her without mercy or proper planning. It begged the question, whose interests truly matter? Certainly not hers. Contrast her ordeal with how men's basketball icons receive treatment. If LeBron strained his groin, cameras would capture him leaving court on a scooter, shielded by a media entourage, shielded by trainers. Steph Curry might rest on a soft bench while sports scientists monitor every heartbeat. Luka Doncic could be replaced by a clone before taking a heavy step wrong. But Clark? She is expected to shake it off, to push back into the frenzy without complaint. It reeks of double standards.
Before the show, Clark released this statement through the Fever's social media account, saying that she's so excited for Indiana to host WNBA All-Star this weekend, and that she says she knows that this is...
The Fever's rotation strategy reads like a parody of incompetence. Clark plays 4 minutes, benches 6, re-enters for 2, exits again. Such erratic timing thwarts any hope of rhythm, causing muscles to stiffen and nerves to fray. Coaches rarely explain their logic beyond buzzwords about flow and energy. Meanwhile, her body writes its own story of trauma and bruises and tears. Each time out becomes another reminder that her health isn't a priority. It's a punchline. Physical punishment in the WNBA skirts the line between competition and cruelty. Opponents body check her under guise of tough defense. The refs, clearly not on her side, watch infractions slide like loose coins on hardwood. Tonight, they swallowed whistles so often that Clark erupted in frustration, a rare public rebuke. No player should have to beg officials for basic protection. Yet she did, and she wasn't heard. Therein lies the league's failure.
Is going to be the best All-Star yet, but she does go on to say how incredibly sad and, quote, disappointed she will not be able to participate, adding, quote, I have to...
Front office decisions compound the problem. Ticket revenue dictates lineups, not medical assessments. Press tours take precedence over rehab sessions. Promotional events drain her energy reserves faster than any scrimmage. The bubble of hype bursts only when she breaks under the strain. People cheer the spectacle but look away when the spectacle crumbles. It's a cruel form of worship, one that demands sacrifice without respect. Her tears as she sank onto the bench signaled more than physical pain. They revealed exhaustion deeper than muscle fatigue, mental stress of carrying a franchise and representing an entire sport weighed on her shoulders like a lead blanket. Instead of rest, she gets platitudes about day-to-day assessments. The hollow semantics conceal the truth. Nobody plans beyond the next box score. Clark's body is the diary of that negligence.
To rest my body. I'll still be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse for all of the action. I'm looking forward to helping Sandy coach our team to a win. So we'll be covering this story throughout NBA.
Satire would have a field day with this reality. It reads like a slapstick routine where the lead actor is perpetually pranked by her own team. Coaches tripping over their clipboards, medical staff playing rock, paper, scissors to decide treatment, executives rolling dice to set her schedule. Yet in real life, there's nothing funny about a career derailed by careless oversight. The joke's on everyone who thought she could endure infinite punishment. Every trip she makes to the free throw line now carries dread instead of hope. Does this pull-up jumper push her one step closer to oblivion? Each mid-range fadeaway invites a twinge of fear rather than awe. Where once she danced through defenses, she now gingerly navigates the court as though mines lie beneath the paint. The very artistry that made her legend trembles under the weight of mismanagement.
Today with live reporting from Indiana as well. But first we say hello to our Tim McMahon and our 2016 champ, Iman Shumpert. Iman, I'm going to start with you on this one. As a fan, it's a big bummer.
Even her recovery routine seems orchestrated for drama instead of healing. Quick ice baths before pressers, smile-laden Instagram updates of progress, and cryptic coach quotes that feel like cover-ups. Fans see a curated path back to glory. Clark sees the same treadmill of pain, chained to obligations she never asked for. It's performance art disguised as medical care. Consider her rookie season hype, comparisons to all-time greats, discussions of perfect shot mechanics, viral moments turned into GIFs. Now imagine all of that overshadowed by a montage of tears and scuffle with trainers. That's the cruel pivot awaiting when a player becomes an asset first and a person second. Clark's narrative arcs from triumph to tragedy in a heartbeat thanks to decisions made behind closed doors.
We're not going to see Caitlin, although I do understand the decision to have to sort of protect her body here. What do you think?
I think it's smart. I think that, you want to play as much basketball as you can.
Sponsors lined up to attach their logos to her jersey. Their demands subtly shifted her focus from health to image obligations. She attended glamorous events while her muscles screamed for rest. Endorsement deals fill her pockets but empty her tank. The machine of modern sports marketing chewed her up while bowing to her name. Now that the gears grind painfully, nobody claims responsibility. Still, she showed flashes of brilliance in this very game before the groin gave way. 14 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. A near triple-double miracle born of relentless drive. The Fever dominated when she led the charge, only to falter the moment she exited. Opponents capitalized, crowd energy dipped, and a win hung by a whisper. Her absence spoke louder than any stat sheet.
And you want to do it at the highest level you can, right? Going back to Indiana and not being able to put on the show that she wants to put on, I can totally understand her decision to want to sit.
It wasn't the first time her play saved Indiana from a collapse. In game after game, she orchestrated comebacks, rallied teammates with sharp passes, and sank shots under pressure that would crack granite. She gave everything in pursuit of victory. Yet, tonight's triumph feels hollow, like a trophy handed to a runner who broke both legs to finish. What worth has a win when the hero lies broken? Critics will point to the final score, 85-77, and hail Indiana's grit. They'll applaud Kelsey Mitchell's 23 points or Natasha Howard's dominance in the paint. They'll pat themselves on the back and move on. But the true headline reads, franchise star in tears limps away. That image will outlast any analysis of bench depth or shooting percentages.
Did it out.
But it's a big-time bummer, obviously. The belle of the ball can't get out on the dance floor, and that, let's be honest, that puts a big-time damper on the whole party.
It does.
This season's All-Star break was meant as respite, a chance for Clark to catch her breath. Instead, it served as a mirage, promising rest that never materialized. Media scrums, charity events, and sponsor photo shoots replaced three-point contests and lighthearted skills challenges. She returned to the lineup as fatigued as she left. Any rest was superficial. a cruel illusion. Satire would compare this treatment to sending a knight to war in shining armor, but expecting him to paint the castle's walls afterward. The role of superstar demands battle, yet the duties extend to dining banquets and posing for tapestries. Clark fights on the court, and then graciously wears crowns in press rooms. All the while, her body begs for mercy.
And of course, she says she will be around. She's going to be an excellent host this weekend, and we look forward to seeing her back on the floor whenever that may be. Now joining us, fresh off a flight to...
Expectations in women's basketball hold double standards. When a male player shows toughness through pain, it's lauded as legendary commitment. When Clark does the same, she's criticized for showing weakness. The crowd doesn't want empathy. They want entertainment. They cheer when she pushes through cramps, but boo when she shows emotion. That hypocrisy cuts deeper than any ankle roll. The league's reputation sits on her shoulders as much as the Fever's. TV deals, merchandise sales, social media growth, all track with her performance. Without her highlight reels, the WNBA risks commercial obscurity. Yet the league offers her uneven protection, tepid support, and empty assurances. It's akin to forgetting to secure the roof while installing the fancy windows.
Indianapolis with the latest on Clark's status for the weekend, Alexa Philippou. Alexa, what more can you tell us about the decision for Clark to sit out this weekend?
Behind the scenes, players whisper about the lack of collective bargaining power on health matters. They talk of joining union efforts for guaranteed rest periods and standardized recovery protocols. They dream of contracts that protect them against reckless overuse. But those ideas face resistance from owners guarding their bottom lines. Clark's ordeal illuminates the cracks in the system. Injuries in basketball are inevitable. Proper load monitoring, consistent communication between coaches and medical staff, and honest public updates would create a healthier environment. Instead, the current model damages bodies and trust simultaneously. Clark's tears reflect a system in need of overhaul.
Yeah, well, certainly a bummer, I think, across all of Indianapolis, all of the WNBA world to hear this news. And we know that yesterday, Stephanie White told us reporters that it was a decision that Caitlin Clark and her team would be making, that she was going to stay out of it. And it was going to be something that they had to consider, yes, how exciting and fun and important it would have been to have.
Gross overemphasis on ticket sales over talent welfare reminds one of early industrial factories where output trumped worker safety. The league's neon signs and post-game fireworks might dazzle, but behind the scenes lies a darker truth. Athletes toil without adequate protection while spectators absorb the spectacle. The theater of sport mesmerizes until the machinery falters. Clark's legacy teeters on a knife edge. One path leads to career-defining triumphs and Hall of Fame honors. The other veers toward early retirement and what-if debates. All because of decisions made by people more concerned with quarterly profits than lifelong well-being. It's not hyperbole to say her future hangs in the balance.
Her participate in this weekend's festivities, but at the same time that they needed to take into consideration her long-term health, especially because now this is the fourth separate injury that she's had since the preseason, and knowing the second half of the season is coming up, knowing that the Fever want to take that playoff push, it just simply wasn't worth it for her to...
Ironically, the very traits that made her a star, relentless work ethic, refusal to surrender, and flair for the dramatic, now serve as chains binding her to an unsustainable workload. Each press conference, declaration of readiness, pulls her further into the cycle of re-injury. Her own resilience becomes a liability under careless management. Fans play a role too. They demand her presence every night, posting fiery threads when she sits out. They hound social media for updates on her progress. Their curiosity and passion fuel the push to rush her back. They celebrate stellar performances, but shun vulnerability. The adoring crowd, in championing her, mutes the call for caution.
Participate in that she, as she said in that statement, needs to rest. So she's going to be involved, I'm sure, on the sidelines. We also know she's going to be at this very important set of...
Every organization professes to put athletes first. Yet, when push comes to shove, corporate interests eclipse personal welfare. Signing bonuses and endorsement deals plaster slogans about championing women. But real championing requires protecting their bodies and minds. Clark's tears reveal how far talk strays from action. There's a lesson here for young players dreaming of WNBA glory. It warns that superstardom comes with hidden costs. The path to stardom demands more than skill. It demands resilience in the face of systemic pressures. Aspiring athletes must navigate not only opponents, but also organizational agendas. It's a reality check, sincere in its skepticism.
Negotiations for the new collective bargaining agreement that the Players Association and the league are having today. She told me the other day that she was going to be there and is definitely keeping.
Still, hope remains if the right changes occur. If franchises adopt evidence-based training, limit mandatory appearances, and empower medical teams with final authority, they can safeguard their stars. If the league enforces rest protocols and transparent injury reporting, trust can rebuild. These steps honor tradition without fossilizing outdated practices. They marry respect for the past with responsibility for the future. Clark herself might emerge stronger, using this crisis as a catalyst for advocacy. Her voice carries weight among peers and fans alike. She could spearhead initiatives demanding better health protections. A superstar who turned vulnerability into leadership could redefine power in women's sports. That transformation aligns with the very skepticism that questions the status quo.
A close eye on how those talks go. So that might be just as important as what she would have been able to do on the court. But certainly a bummer. Brittany Sykes will be taking her place. The league just announced that's definitely a well-deserved bid for Sykes, the Washington Mystics guard, but definitely a little bit of a damper on the weekend, and we'll have to see too as we look forward. The Liberty.
Satirical sketches might lampoon the current scenario, but real reforms require earnest commitment. The WNBA stands at a crossroads. Continue prioritizing spectacle over safety, or heed the warnings etched on Clark's tear-streaked face. Tradition demands toughness, yet tradition also values care and honor. It's time to balance those legacies. Perhaps the most ironic twist lies in the source of her tears. Through sweat and grit, she carved her legend. Now her own body weeps in protest against the exact demands that fueled her rise. Injuries become metaphors for mismatched priorities, a physical manifestation of organizational folly. Her tears speak volume.
The Fever are going back to the Liberty. It's supposed to be a game on Tuesday. We will have to see if Clark will be available for that. But given all of these,
let this story serve as a wake-up call, not only to those in Indiana, but to every corner of women's basketball. When a hero shows weakness, it highlights systemic imbalances. It is neither shameful nor sensational. It is an opportunity to learn and improve. Pain can ignite progress if listened to honestly. So where does this leave Caitlin Clark? On one hand, she could walk away, disillusioned by the very structure that elevated her. On the other, she could stay, fight again, and demand the change she needs. That decision rests with her, empowered by her talent and enlightened by her hardship. It will define her legacy more than any three-pointer.
Injuries piling up and the fact that they're really trying to focus on her long-term health, then we'll have to see if she'll even be able to be available for that game as well.
Right, because she was sort of an iron woman.
If you've ever cheered her name, now is the time to ensure her health matters more than any scoreboard. If you want to see Caitlin Clark at her best, support the changes that will let her shine safely. The future of the WNBA depends on it. So before you next tune in, ask yourself, are you ready to demand better for those who give us their all? Share this message with fellow fans, raise your voice on social media, and hold teams accountable. Only then can we turn tears into triumph.
And through college and even her first year in the WNBA, and then this season now missing almost 10 games here, is something we're not used to seeing from Caitlin Clark. Alexa, enjoy All-Star Weekend nonetheless, and we will see you soon. It does begin tomorrow night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indy. The three-point contest, the skills challenge, that's at 8 o'clock.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below to keep the conversation going. Let's push for real change together.